All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I see we've got some people tuning in from all over the world, including one of our speakers. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about one-way video interviews and Workable's one-way video interview tool. We'll talk about what it is, how it works, and most importantly, how it can help your hiring process. Before we get started and before I introduce our expert and the real star of today's webinar, I wanted to just give you some quick context around why we're here. At Workable, we've been working on our one-way video interviews tool for quite some time. Actually, we had originally scheduled to release this product in late April, early May, but all of that changed in March. So with COVID-19, I know all of us around the world are really feeling the impact of this and a major shift in our lives, but also the way that we work and the way that we hire. Our biggest priority at Workable has really been trying to figure out how can we help customers navigate this crisis and this new remote hiring world. To that end, our product team really stepped up. They fast-tracked our video interviews product, made it fully available and free to use for 3 months for all of our annual customers by March 16th, which is about a month early. Fast forward to now, about 2 months later, which I can't believe it's already been 2 months. We're still enabling video interviews for hundreds of customers, and it's still completely free to use for 3 months for all new and existing annual customers. We felt like right now we could actually finally maybe take a small breath, a little step back, and explore the capabilities of this tool in depth with you all and talk about the role that these one-way video interviews are going to play in this new normal, the new remote world that many of us are going to be in for the foreseeable future. So with that, let's get started. I'll quickly introduce myself. I'm Zoe. I'm the VP of Product Marketing here at Workable. I work really closely with our customer-facing teams to make sure that all of your great feedback makes its way back to our product team, which is a group of really talented people that's led by our other speaker today, the VP of Product at Workable, Michalis Rikakis. So Michalis, I'll let you introduce yourself to everybody.
Thank you, Zoe. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are, everyone. So I'm Michalis Rikakis. I'm heading the product team at Workable, making sure that we're building the right thing for our customers. Before joining Workable, I've been working for companies like Google and Nokia and other ones in various products. So yeah, over to you, Zoe.
Awesome. Thanks, Michalis. So really quickly, I'll run through today's agenda. We're going to start with the basics. What are one-way video interviews and how did we come to build them at Workable? Next, we'll get into how you can actually use one-way video interviews to help you hire. So how you can reduce your time to hire, increase your overall productivity, even improve your candidate experience. And then Michalis will actually show you what this looks like in action with a demo of Workable's video interviews tool. We'll save some time at the end for questions, and on those questions, please feel free to start submitting those in the question box now. I'm going to pepper Michalis with as many questions as I possibly can at the end of this webinar, so keep them coming throughout. Now, before we get started, we wanted to take a quick poll. Michalis and I are actually really interested to see how familiar you all in the audience are with one-way video interviews. So if you could just take a quick moment to select one of the following answers. One, this is your first time sort of hearing about one-way video interviews. Two, you've maybe heard it before, maybe learned about it, but have never tried it. Three, you might have used it to screen for some positions, but not all. And four, you are a pro, you do this all the time, you regularly screen candidates using one-way video interviews. So we'll give it just a second or two for the results to roll in. And I'm curious to see how many people are using it regularly versus have never been able to look at it before. So we'll give it one more second here. Michalis, what do you think the most popular answer is going to be?
One.
Yes, you're correct. Anything surprise you about this, Michalis?
No, I think it's quite natural. It's quite new technology. So I'm sure a lot of people are interested in hearing more about it. Probably that's why they're here, right?
Let's hope. I mean, it could be to see us, but I think it's probably to see the one-way video interviews. Cool. All right, so let's jump in. Like the poll is showing us, about 55% of folks, have never really seen this before, have never really heard about it. So I think a lot of us are actually very, familiar with live video interviews. I know in the last couple months, we've all had to get really used to using Zoom and Google Hangouts for everything. But now we're seeing more and more organizations who are adopting one-way video interviews to help screen candidates. Michalis, for those 55% who have never really seen it before, can you explain what one-way video interview screening is and how that might be different from a live video interview?
Sure. So video interviews or one-way video interviews is basically an asynchronous way of doing interviews. The way it works is that the hiring team puts together a set of questions that they would be interested in asking the candidates, which they would be doing anyway, like in a normal interview. But they put them together like in a tool, like Workable. They're sending them over to the candidate, and then the candidate at their own time can read the questions, record the answers through a video, and submit their answers back to the hiring team. And then the hiring team can have a look at the answers and basically evaluate the candidates.
Great. And I know that you came to Workable on a mission to build a tool like this, among others, for Workable customers. Can you talk a little bit about what maybe sparked your interest in this kind of screening capability and how you came to develop a tool like this?
Sure. So my professional experience and my background has always been evolving around communications and video technologies. So for example, at Google, I was working for Hangouts Meet, so basically the enterprise video conferencing tool. I was part of the product management team there. Before that, I was working for a company called Cinch, basically building, again, collaboration platform as a service with video communication part of that. And before that, again, I was working like in video conferencing for Nokia, and it goes on and on. So I've been working a lot in this type of technologies. And it was very exciting to actually do something similar at Workable as my first sort of mission, because it is something which is like modern. People are very familiar now with like video messaging, or I don't know, recording stories in Instagram or TikToks or whatever. So recording themselves in video, especially for like millennials and the younger generations, the younger generations, is something very common right now. And it makes total sense to be able to use this type of technology for other things and like professional things like hiring, right? So it was really nice to be able to introduce something like that for Workable. And of course, with this, the hiring process and the tools that the hiring team has at their hands becomes, I can leverage basically all the new technology, a lot of automation, a lot of AI and machine learning technology that is definitely needed to help, especially at times when there's like a large quantity of candidates.
What did the team look like? How long did that take?
Yeah, so there were actually multiple teams involved in building this tool. So of course, there was like one dedicated team, part of the evaluation tribe. We're split in tribes, and then each tribe basically has squads. So we have a squad which is purely focusing on building the video interview product, and that's like a normal, let's say, software development team. It has like software engineers and designers, a researcher who is doing a lot of user research to make sure we're building the right thing, quality assurance engineers, and so on, and of course a product manager. But there were also other teams involved. So the core team of the core product of Workable, the ATS, was involved. Our data science team was involved building machine learning algorithms. The mobile team was involved to make sure that our mobile clients are supporting and are giving a great experience for our customers, and so on.
Awesome. So it sounds like a fairly big undertaking. I mentioned
Yes.
earlier, I mentioned earlier that we kind of brought this to market a little bit early in, in response to what was happening in the market with COVID-19 and this global pandemic we're all dealing with. Can you talk a little bit about why you felt like it was important to bring this out early and what you thought video screening might be able to help customers do, or why it would be helpful, especially right now?
Sure. So normally at Workable, we're using like an end-to-end product development team, which is like purely focusing on agile. We're doing user research along the whole way of developing product. We're doing A/B testing. We're doing a lot of things to make sure that we're building the right thing. And part of that is basically launching an early release in alpha, which is basically an internal release, but also like a beta, which is basically a release for some early customers, some trusted customers who are willing to try it out and provide us constructive feedback, right? So this is normally like a closed beta that we do for our products. And we were actually in the midst of this closed beta when the crisis from coronavirus hit basically globally, and people, everyone was quarantined and everyone was staying at home. And we wanted to do something about that. We wanted to help people who still wanted to hire during those difficult times and they could not like meet face to face. We want to give them tools to be able to do this type of thing. So we took a decision to open it up basically to everyone and not just to the few customers who were part of the closed beta, because we had already seen like we had already received very good feedback and had very good signs of how it performs. So it was a small risk, but we thought it was definitely worth taking, especially during these times with the quarantine and the difficulties in collaboration. So yeah, that's what we did, and it was actually super exciting to see a lot of companies trying it out, jumping on board, providing us great feedback, and continuing their hiring process by using this tool.
Awesome. I think that's actually kind of a nice transition into what I'd like to talk to you about next, which is how one-way videos actually help people hire. I think there's been a lot of discussion around just like the unprecedented amount of talent that's all of a sudden in the job market and looking for work. As a lot of companies start to maybe ramp up hiring again post-COVID, recruiters are going to be faced with this task of having hundreds and hundreds of super qualified, talented candidates that they're going to have to sift through in order to figure out, who the right person for the role is. Could you talk about how recruiters might be able to use video interviews, one-way video interviews, to manage this demand, maybe free up some time?
Sure. The main advantage of doing the one-way video interviews in comparison with one-on-one interviews, whether these are through like video call or like a phone call or even face-to-face, if that was happening still, it's basically the asynchronous sort of nature of this feature, right? So what happens is that the hiring team is putting together the questions at their own time. They're preparing the interview, so that's fine. They send it over to the candidate. Then the candidate can select when it's a good time for them to go through the questions and record their answers. So they can do it at the comfort of their own home, at a specific sort of time that is convenient for them. Maybe, I don't know, if someone is like a parent and now everyone is living with their kids, right? They'll probably pick to do it at 11 at night when everyone is asleep, right? And everything is quiet and they can concentrate and have some quiet time, which would not be like the case if you would be doing like a one-on-one interview with someone. At the same time, it's the same advantage also for the hiring team, right? So they will get all the answers through a tool. They will be able to go through each video recording, see the candidate, understand, the answer, and provide like an evaluation. And again, they can do it at their own time. They can, stop doing that if they want at some point and continue the next day when they have some time. Maybe if they are commuting, they can do it during commuting. So basically, it saves a lot of time by avoiding all the back and forth of basically synchronizing like availability of both hiring team and candidates, as well as time for actually doing like the interview. Like you don't need to block a specific time to do the interview. You can sort of break it in pieces and record yourself or watch the answers if you're from the other side.
Yeah, that's great. So there's a ton of flexibility for candidates, but there's also a ton of flexibility for the hiring team too. You mentioned sort of like the hiring team being able to all kind of come together and see all of these different candidates. I wonder too, for companies who are still remote right now or might be considering going remote more permanently, how can something like video interviews actually help maybe increase collaboration across teams that might be now dispersed, where you can't just like get in a meeting room and be like, oh, let's talk about the candidates that you screened this week, or let's talk about the best candidates. Can you talk a little bit about how collaboration happens with something like this?
Sure. So first of all, going remote means that you may have a team which is working in, of course, different places, but also it could be like different time zones, and so everything is sort of changing. Everything is shifting to a much more sort of flexible, work hours, flexible, like location where you are, et cetera, et cetera. So being able to actually like watch an interview and provide your evaluation at your own time, and not sort of need to be with the rest of the hiring team at the same room or the same call to listen to the candidate, it's definitely one big advantage, right? So everyone can sort of see it for themselves. They can provide their evaluation, and everything is nicely, it's all accumulated like inside Workable. So all the information is there in one place. They can provide comments, they're able to provide their evaluations per question, etc. So it really helps sort of the hiring team collaborate in one place. They have the candidate with their profile, and then they can see like their answers in the video interviews, and they can watch them again, and it stays there in case they want to come back at another time and watch it again. So that sort of definitely helps, in this sense, especially now that we are sort of working remotely. You need tools like that to be able to do this type of things.
Definitely. And it sounds like it adds some structure too, which probably really helps when you've got folks who aren't used to being remote that now have to work together to get these roles filled. That makes a ton of sense. And I think, we talked about ways in which you might be able to save time, which ultimately will help reduce your time to hire. Are there ways that this tool might also help people increase quality of hire? And I know this is a leading question, but you and I have talked about this before, and I think it's pretty interesting. Like, are there ways you can actually improve the quality of the candidates that you're bringing in as a result of using something like this?
For sure, right? So the answer probably to that is twofold. Of course, you're increasing the quality of hire from a sense that you are able to scale in large number of candidates and screen more of them, rather than arranging an interview with only the first 10 that are going to apply and have probably an interesting CV. So suddenly you're able to send out 200 invitations for video interviews, and then whoever records their answer and sends it back, you can sort of go through them at your own time. So definitely scalability, like on the number of candidates, is one thing. The second thing is we've put a lot of focus into actually making this a great experience for the candidate, which is often overlooked, like how the importance of the candidate experience. So we put a lot of effort in making this a tool that the candidates feel at ease, and they can actually do their best, perform their best in answering this type of interviews, right? So I'm going also to walk you through during the demo for that, but that also sort of helps having a better understanding of the candidates without sort of the bias of, I'm doing this live interview right now, but there's something also very pressing that I have in my mind, or my previous meeting ran over, so this candidate doesn't have enough time to ask them all the questions and stuff. So it's very equal, let's say. It gives equal opportunity to everyone, and I think that definitely leads to the hiring team to be able to do a better choice for who they're going to be selecting.
Totally. And it sounds like too, it gives people a chance to shine sort of earlier on in the interview process, which might be easier to do kind of coming across on camera as opposed to a phone screen live where you're stressed and the baby's crying in the other room and your dog's running around. There's those opportunities. And I know you'll take us through some of the candidate experience, but I'd love to hear you just kind of talk about some of the work that went into creating that experience for candidates. Because I think oftentimes when we talk about one-way video interviews, we're not always talking about how that can make the candidate experience better than the phone screen, but I know that was a big focus for you. So would you mind talking about that a little bit?
Yes, of course. So we did extensive user research, also from the candidate side when we were building this tool. Actually, we started from the candidate side because we thought that that was the most sort of important aspect of video interviews to start with. The people who have worked with either like doing themselves an interview through video, a one-way video, or even being on the other side from the hiring part, they would know that video interviews are basically an awkward experience, to be honest, to a lot of candidates, because people are not very at ease, let's say, when they are recording themselves, especially like for things that are not fun, right? They're stressed, like, okay, am I right on point? Is this tool sort of making me look good? Is everything working? So we found that there were a ton of things that were stressing out candidates and were actually getting in their way of providing their best, basically, or performing their best, when it comes to answering the questions, and that were actually not related to the actual, questions, to the actual thing that they had to answer. So people were getting stressed, like, okay, is my hardware working? How is the audio quality? Or I'm not familiar at all with this interface. How does it work? Or they were recording themselves. They couldn't see the answer, the question, right? So maybe it had like 2 parts, or it had like a tail question following that, and they were missing that because they were just watching themselves while recording. And there were a lot of those things that were basically making the candidate stressed, and we wanted to remove that as much as possible. Of course, it's still like a video recording tool, so if you're not very you're not one of the people who like doing that or get very stressed talking to a machine, then you'll probably get a little bit stressed, but we try at least to reduce that as much as possible.
Awesome. Well, it's exciting to hear about all these, like the way that we're trying to make this comfortable for the candidates. It's interesting to talk about, but I would love to actually see it in action. So at this point, I'd love to turn it over to you, Michalis, to kind of walk people through what this looks like, both from the hiring team's perspective and from the candidate's perspective. For the audience, keep questions coming in. I can see that we've got a few already, so keep those coming, and we'll make sure to cover those as soon as Michalis is done with the demo.
Sure. Thank you, Zoe. So can you see my screen? I hope you can.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So now I'm in Workable, and I'm looking at the jobs dashboard. So my company is called Oceanic Airlines, and I have quite a few jobs here listed that I'm part of the hiring team. So let me show you. So here's like a role for a customer service representative. And in this one, we have configured to have like a video interview sort of step. I'm going to show you a little bit, like the first step, what it looks like to basically create a video interview, how easy it is, and all the options that we've made available for the hiring team when they're setting up, let's say, a video interview. So you'll see here in my job editor, I have like a workflow tab, and here is basically the pipeline that I have for this particular job, right? And in this video interview step, I have configured a workable video interview. So here's what it looks like. So this is the editor. I'm just using a pre-filled, let's say, example to walk you through it so that you can see it, what it looks like. But of course, you will be also getting like you can start from scratch if you want and customize this fully as you wish. So here we have like an introductory type of section, which the candidate will see when they click on the invitation link that you will be sending them. And this section is supposed to be sort of taking them through the process, what's expected from them, etc. So can be something like, hello, thank you for your interest in applying for this particular job with us. We're very excited that you're here, and we've put together some questions that we would like you to record yourself in video, right? So text like that. I'm going to show you what it looks like eventually from the candidate side, but this is the place where you as a hiring team can sort of set that up You can also add images or videos if you want to, present the team and yourself if you want to make it more interactive, more live. You can do all that in this editor. So this is like the first thing that the candidate will see when they enter the tool. And here's the section where we are actually building the interview questions that we will be sending over to the candidate. As you see, it comprises of different sort of sections, or we call them topics. Like we have an intro topic, which has actually 2 questions underneath that. Then we have like work style, we have logistic questions, etc. So you can create like, new topics, and you can add questions as needed. So for example, I could create like a topic, at the end saying like any questions, for example, which is always a nice practice to ask the candidate if they have any questions. So please let me know if you have any questions. Any question? There we go. And here to the right, there are different sort of parameters that the hiring team who is setting up the video interview can set, right? So the first one is time to think, which is basically how much time you allow the candidate to look at the question, and then how much they can think of their answer before actually starting the recording. You can limit that to like 1, 2 or more minutes if you want, but you can also set it to like unlimited. So it's up to you. It depends on the nature of the question and how much you want them to like, be spontaneous rather than be able to prepare for their answer or do research and stuff. The second parameter has to do with the time that they have to answer. So the recording will eventually stop at some point. There's a time limit, and again, it's up to you to limit that as much as or as little as you want. Right. So if they have any question, maybe we can give them like 2 or 3 minutes for them to be able to record their questions. The last parameter is the number of takes. This is basically if you are allowing your candidate, if they're not satisfied with their answer, to try to do it 1 more time or multiple times. And I'm going to show you what we do at Workable to also sort of make this a great candidate experience. So this is where you can set it up for the any questions type of question. It doesn't make sense to have too many takes. Probably 2 takes is good enough. So there you go. We have our new topic, like any questions, with 1 question below that. So this is basically what the interview structure looks like. I'm going to now walk you through the candidate experience without taking too much of your time, also to show you what we've done on that part. So the candidate will be receiving an email invitation from you, which will basically, again, have some explanation of what is expected from them, and also like have the invitation link, which is the one that you see up here, which is unique per candidate. So the moment they click this link, they will end up in this landing page. Having said that, I want to point out that the candidate will be straightly sort of redirected here. They will not need to create any account in Workable or any other third-party software that the candidate is definitely not familiar with. They will not need to install anything, regardless if they are on their web browser or their mobile phone or their tablet. So the experience is going to be seamless for everyone, without any software, without any accounts, without any sort of this type of requirements, right? So just a browser, either on the mobile or on a laptop or on a PC, is going to work. So this is the landing page. It will take from your Workable account profile the branding as well as your company description, and on the left side, the candidate will get this message that we put together as an introduction. So they're going to see like your avatar and your name and role, and the text or maybe the video that you put together to sort of explain them what's happening, and other things that are interesting to them, like their deadline to submit their questions and stuff like that. They're also able to see what will be asked from them, and this is like an interesting also thing that we have done. The hiring team can select if they want to share information upfront with a candidate and specify that in the interview editor. So maybe you want to let them know of the questions well in advance. You don't want them to be spontaneous. You want them to do research. Maybe one of them is like a complete assignment, and you want them to prepare. And in this case, you would select to share all this information with a candidate beforehand, so they would be able to see like the topics and the questions under the topics and prepare. But if you don't want them to prepare so extensively, but maybe give them a little bit of information what's going to happen, you're able to select them to view only the topics. So this is what we're doing in this particular sort of interview. They can see like what the interview is going to be about. Like there's going to be some introduction, and then I'm going to have questions around my work style. And then here you see like the number of questions and how much time is going to take approximately, which is good for me as a candidate because I want to know how long it's going to take, so I can plan to have this type of time free. Having said that, we've also added the flexibility that the candidate can stop whenever they want the interview and then continue another time, another place, another device if they want, or they can take breaks, and this doesn't affect their whole interview process. So everything is streamed in the cloud. We're using the latest technologies to do that, so that it's easy for them to just take a break and resume another time or another day if they want, as long as they're within the deadline. The next thing that the candidate will need to do is either practice, or if they feel that they're ready, they can just start. In the practice, I'm going to show you what practice looks like, but it's basically the exact same experience as they would be getting in the real interview. So what we're doing in the practice is that we're giving them the ability to test their hardware and their network, but also to sort of understand how the whole tool works in conditions that are matching exactly their interview conditions. So for example, okay, right now it's basically testing my network, but it's also testing my audio and video quality to make sure that hardware is not gonna get in the way during my interview. So I'm getting an excellent connection, which is great. I could get a different rate, if I wasn't in a strong sort of Wi-Fi as I am right now. And in that case, I would get like a warning that you can start if you want, but it's probably best that you find better internet connection and maybe run a retest. But here everything looks great, so I'm gonna start my practice. And in the practice, the candidate can see basically the interface that they will also see during the actual interview. We have some practice questions from a pool of questions that are actually very easy, and that's on purpose because we want the candidate to be able to actually start talking without too much thinking, so that they sort of understand how everything works, and they also get a bit accustomed to sort of talking in front of the camera and not getting very stressed. You also see that this is like a chat-like interface here, which is also kind of familiar for people, and making it a little bit more personal so they don't feel like they're talking to a machine. I can start recording my answer while I'm walking you through the rest of the interface. So here to the right, you have my the panel that I'm working like. So all my controls are here. I can see myself. If I want, I can enlarge it as I did right now. If I'm getting nervous looking at myself, I can just make it smaller. Always the camera view is always at the top, so that I'm not like looking down, but I'm actually looking quite high, so it looks nice. And here to the left, you can also see the question at all times, so that if you forget, if there was like a second part of the question, stuff like that, you make sure that you're answering that as well. We also have like a recommended answer time, which is basically what the hiring team has set up, but we figured out that having like a countdown to this one and then sort of just cutting it is a bit too harsh and maybe too stressful. So we allow sort of giving an extra minute for candidates to wrap up their answers. I'll stop this recording. This particular question has actually 3 takes, which means that I can rewatch. Oh, there we go. I can rewatch my take, and if I'm not happy, I can actually try one more take. And what we've done in the takes is basically that usually what you see in video interview tools is that, the last take that you're doing is replacing the previous one. But this is also, again, like a stress factor for candidates. And the reason it's stressful is because, I answered, it was pretty okay. I'm not sure if I try, if it's gonna be better or worse. So should I try another one or not? So basically, what we are doing is that we're keeping all takes and we are letting the candidate pick the best at the end. So I'm not gonna spend too much time on this anymore, but I'll watch also the last steps of the candidate, like during the review step that they're selecting their best takes, and then also show you what it looks like from the hiring team when they are getting the answers and evaluate them. So I finished my practice, and this is a review stage. This is exactly what it's going to look like also during the real interview. Of course, here we're telling them that this is like only practice mode, so these are not going to be visible to anyone. Here, let's say I was happier with my first take rather than my second take, so I can select my best take here, and then I can just finish my my practice. So I can, if I'm not sort of very comfortable with interface, I can just do it again. Or if I feel like I'm confident and I'm ready to go, I can start my interview. Right. So the last part of this demo is actually the last step, which is what happens when you as a hiring team now start getting you start seeing the different answers that your candidates have submitted, right? So let me go back to show you how this goes. So this is the job, the customer service representative, and okay. So here I'm getting this type of like scorecard, which everyone's familiar with. Here you can watch like a video, and you can also add like a note if you feel like, okay, this is good. So you can watch the answer, and you can add notes, and you can also use the usual rating that we have been during like all interviews inside Workable. So here we can watch the video, and you do this for all answers basically. So let's say that this was also pretty good. So I can add a note here. And this basically auto-generates this type of scorecard, which is the same as happening with like one-on-one interviews, etc. And it stays with this candidate, let's say, profile for this particular sort of job. So at any point, I can go back and revisit what the answers of this candidate were, and also I can add my overall evaluation, me as a sort of part of the hiring team, so that the other evaluators can also see. I think he should move forward, let's say, and I'm adding a yes, and I'm adding this evaluation. So so I added my evaluation. I can see here my scorecard and everything. So all the information remains inside Workable. The video is always there if I want to watch it again. So it's all like in one place, and then my evaluation is also sort of marked here. Any new videos that I'm getting are going to appear here in the candidate browser, and then I can just go through each and every one of them whenever I see fit and provide my evaluation, and the same for the rest of the hiring team. I think that's the end of my demo. Are you still
great.
with me? Or
I wanted to see how Scott Anderson did. I want to know if he gets hired for the role. All right, so when we hop back here, I just want to address, we've gotten some feedback that there have been some audio issues. So for anybody that's been on the webinar and unable to hear, we will be providing a recording. Please continue to submit questions right now, because we will make sure that we answer those questions and get those answers over to you somehow. For anyone who's still with us, who can still hear, who isn't having the audio issues, please let us know using the poll box whether you'd like to learn a bit more about the video interviews tool. I think I mentioned earlier, this is still free to use for all existing and new annual customers. So if you'd like to learn more, or if you're new to Workable and would like to learn a little bit more about Workable, please let us know by responding yes, please, and we'll make sure to link you up with a product specialist or an account manager. So I'll give everybody a couple minutes to fill that out. Great. And then, as I mentioned, I know there's been some audio issues, so we will be working to get this recording with the sound out to everybody. And we will take all of the questions. I think easier to take those questions that we've received throughout the webinar and actually send them to you guys via email so that everybody can hear the answers. But I would like to thank you, Michalis, for taking us through the tool. It's been awesome to see it in action, and I know it's been great to hear feedback from customers who have been able to use it and have seen a lot of success using it. To everybody who's still with us and still able to hear, thank you so much. Thank you for joining. We'll make sure the recording is available shortly, and again, we'll make sure that we address all of the questions because I know we've had quite a few come through. We'll make sure we get all of those addressed as well. So thank you everybody for your time today, and I hope you take care.
Thank you.